Paramount is making aggressive moves, throwing Disney and Universal out of their groove. This time, it's not only the UFC coming to Paramount Plus and CBS, but guess what else? Star Trek. We've got a rumor, we've got a scoop. Ladies and gentlemen, it looks like it's not too good to be true. Star Trek may be saved by Skydance. Hello, folks. Welcome back. The Pro Channel is hot, red hot, and ready to bring you all the news you need to know. Welcome back yet again. Click the like button, and let's dive in. Finally, some good news, potentially, for Star Trek. All right, out of that Park Place, Paramount and Skydance are making big moves. And within just days of that merger happening, and they are going after Disney, not just with Star Trek stuff. Let's set up the table first before we talk about not a galaxy far, far away, but, well, we'll get there. Hang tight, folks. Different galaxy. Marvin Montanaro, Paramount snags UFC US rights from Disney in $7.7 billion deal shortly after Skydance merger. I promise this has a connection to Star Trek. We'll get there in just a second. Paramount has made its first big move following its merger with Skydance, striking a major agreement to obtain the U.S. broadcasting rights for the UFC, that's the Ultimate Fighting Championship, from TKO Group. The deal, valued at $7.7 billion over a 7-year period starting in 2026, marks a massive shot across the bow of the sports world by Paramount's new leadership. Now, why, folks? Well, because Disney just made that big announcement that apparently did not get lots of investors super excited. No stock advice being given, no financial advice being provided. But Disney made that ESPN NFL announcement. And then we found out that, oh, wait, it's not a done deal. It has to be approved. It's non-binding, and it doesn't go through until late 2026 at the earliest. Meanwhile, Skydance Paramount, that just became a thing, they zinged Disney right away. They're going to get the UFC. And the UFC is going to Paramount Plus as well as CBS, and it's a done deal. It's going through. It's going to happen. Here we go. Well, guess what? It seems to me that Skydance and Paramount are moving quickly, and now here's what we're hearing. Folks, I've got a source telling me that there's more to this story than just it's being pitched. Now, I don't want to go into exactly what that might mean, and we are in rumor and speculation territory, but I'm hearing that this is farther along. And, well, let's tell you what it is, okay? Now, Jonas, before we do, you and I had discussed in the past that if Skydance and Paramount, if Star Trek was one of their top priorities, that's a problem because it's just not big enough to be one of the top priorities. But maybe they can walk and chew gum at the same time. We'll get into the details of this, but what do you think about the idea that they're already prepping the, I guess, return of the Trek?
You know, this is interesting because the Enterprise was my least favorite out of, well, yeah, it never really connected with me. I like it. Obviously, I like it more than I like current Trek here. But farther along, we'll know more about it. Farther along, we'll understand why. There's a little church joke for you. Scott Bacula is a great actor, and I love his presence in stuff, but he is still not quite that classic Trek that I'm looking for as a fan. I want them to go into the TNG timeline. I want them to go to Deep Space Nine. I want a new Star Trek that feels like Star Trek, and this is kind of halfway in the middle between original series and Berman Star Trek here.
I don't know, Jonas. He's quantum leaps and bounds above Kurtzman, right?
Yeah, I would agree, except for the fact that he doesn't end up randomly dressing like a girl in Star Trek Enterprise.
Well, that's because
the surprise in some episodes of Quantum Leap there.
Well, and by now, Jonas, that would just be an everyday, right? That doesn't do anything for anybody if that happens in a show today. Be like, yeah, it's a Tuesday.
Right. So here's the idea that I'm looking at here. President Archer series pitch. If the thing that I want is I want to know who from the original is involved. And I'm not talking Jonathan Frakes. He's a good director and he's a good shooter here for the show. But I want original style writers. I want actual science fiction writers on these shows, and not just a bunch of people who saw Buffy the Vampire Slayer and said, oh, I could do a repeat of that. We want science fiction stories. And President of Starfleet, or whatever he is in all of this, that's okay. But I want a wormhole to bring in aliens every single episode, or I want them to be on a ship so that they can go out and encounter things in places where no man has gone before. The idea of this is okay. That's fine. Where's Terry Matalas and Star Trek?
Yeah, this is new to everybody when you say that, folks. Every day, this man calls me and says, "I want a wormhole. I want a wormhole. I'm so tired of the wormholes."
Get back at me for putting that, but stuff.
I checked on Amazon, and what I found was terrifying. Jonas, trust me, you don't want what it is they're selling when it's labeled wormhole. All right, August 8th. Here's what it says. This is by Anthony Pasquelli, and there's some stuff in here that matters more than the other stuff. We're going to try to hit the stuff that matters. It says it's been 20 years since Captain Jonathan Archer and the crew of the NX-01 returned to space dock for the series finale of Star Trek Enterprise, wrapping up a 4-season run on UPN. It was the franchise's last network TV series. All right, cool deal. Here's what we've got, though. According to Sussman, all right, the idea of Bacula returning to the franchise began a few years ago while Star Trek Picard was streaming on Paramount+. The show wrapped up in 2023 under showrunner Terry Matalas, himself a veteran of Star Trek and a friend of Sussman. At that time, in an email exchange with Bacula, Sussman first joked, "How soon are we going to see Star Trek Archer on Paramount+?" Then quickly realized he actually had an idea based on some seeds planted 2 decades before in Enterprise. And Bacula was intrigued. He immediately glommed onto it, Sussman tells Trek Movie. Now, here's what I'm hearing from a source. And this source I cannot corroborate. And it's, they're being a little cagey too. But I'll just say this. The source that I reached out to said, don't be surprised if Matalas worked on this a little bit in helping it get fleshed out. Dude. Now, I don't know. Well, listen, they're friends. So I'm being a little bit cautious with this rumor. I don't want to jump head first into it. But that does seem to me to make sense that if Sussman and Matalas are friends and they talked about it, I can definitely see them having an hour or a 2-hour conversation about how you would set this up, what you would do. And then this article goes on to talk about how Scott Bakula apparently has been working on this with Sussman for years. And now there may be some rumblings at Skydance and Paramount as they're looking for, where do we go next? What do? We got to get rid of this Kurtzman stuff. What is out there that's possible? And I'm being told that this is one of the things that is more fleshed out, and you could actually just hit the ground running. The guy who would star in it is actually already on board, so you don't really have to work hard on getting the casting done. So this might actually be the next big Star Trek thing. Pan, I'll hand it to you. And what do you make of the idea that Terry Matalas' name is being dropped in the article for a reason, I think, as a friend?
I think the only thing that's missing from this is if you say, okay, yeah, we've got Scott Bakula here. Yeah, he's our star. The next thing you need to do is phone up Jolene Blaylock. That is the moment in Star Trek Enterprise that's been missing from current Star Trek here. There's been a certain, and I'm not trying to be a teenage boy when I say this, but that's the thing that's been missing from Star Trek for a very long time. That masculine and feminine energy from having, and I don't think T'Pol and Archer ever had a thing on the show, but to bring in that, here's a good-looking woman, by the way, and here's a masculine man, and then let the stories write themselves. Well, not let the stories write themselves. Tell good science fiction stories on the backdrop of, let's put these people in these situations over and over again. And you know what? You can do 26 episodes instead of this 10-episode serialized stuff. Every episode needs to be good, not just, oh, we're building to something at the end. There's a mystery box. I don't care. I want a good story every single episode.
Yeah, heaven forbid. I think this is great, personally. I understand why they're going to go back to Archer. Enterprise, it took a little bit, but it got there. It just got there too late. The writer's strike, the writer's strike took it out, but it finally got its footing and kind of knew where it wanted to go. Fans rejected it, in the beginning, and I would say rightfully so, because Star Trek is about moving forward. We were not, pop culturally wise, we were not in a prequel mindset. So going backwards and filling in the blanks was a very dangerous thing to do. But again, eventually they got there. With Archer, Listen, they're buying time to figure out how to fix all the damage that got done. We don't like if you're a fan, you want like listen. Strange New Worlds out here canon breaking every 5 minutes, and we have to pretend it's good. We have to pretend it's good because everything else has been so bad. Terry Matalla's coming back and pulling Picard out of the dumpster fire that was the Kurtzman era. Well, listen, at the end of the day, it still wasn't all that great. It was just better. The season 3 of Picard was the equivalent of having a decent Star Trek movie, but not a great Star Trek movie.
Right. Agreed.
But at least with Enterprise, with going back and doing President Archer, it gives you a chance to kind of reframe the universe, reestablish the basic rules. The Star Trek works best when it is like-minded, competent people working together for a common goal, and that common goal is the greater good. Not this misery machine that the Kurtzman era pumped out for the last however unfortunate amount of time it's been. If you tell the Archer story, you get everybody comfortable, you give us some warm feels, and then you kind of whet the appetite to jump back forwards in time. And I'm assuming that once if they can get rid of the Kurtzman crew, you have to figure out what you actually have the rights to. They're going to have to essentially rebuild the future before they can go forward. So at least this is going to be the, hey guys, we get it, we know everything sucked. Here's the olive branch for the fandom. If the fandom responds, then they're going to have plenty of positive momentum to give us something that would probably have been better than what Legacy would have been under the very incompetent hands of Kurtzman.
Absolutely. And, again, the reason that we're covering this is because I'm being told that this is far more fleshed out and ready to go than just about anything else. And Paramount Skydance, they want to pounce and really catch people off guard. I think that picking up the UFC caught people off guard. It definitely caught Disney off guard, and they actually are going to leapfrog Disney and ESPN with the NFL. They're moving very, very quickly, very aggressively. Culture, what do you think about the idea that they're maybe going to resurrect Trek faster than we originally thought?
Well, I think they have the money to do it. Let's start there. That's always been the barrier to doing it well, is to have not only the creative there, which obviously if Terry was involved in writing some of this, that's a great sign. But at the same time, they have money to jump into it right away. Nobody else does. Disney has to plan and scale and rob Peter to pay Paul. That's why you have to wait 7 years for an attraction to get built for some reason. They always trying to balance their expenditures over multiple quarters, whereas that's not going to be a concern for Skydance. The guy's dad's made of money, plus he's got some of his own. So it's not like this isn't an easy jump start.
So you're saying, Culture, if they want to do like if they want to have family members, if Archer's son needs to be Henry Cavill, they got the money to make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine they would do that right away. I mean, leave something for season 2, but I like the idea. And I think this is a good starting point. Maybe it'll be a foundational point to work from where you start to build up Starfleet Academy and Starfleet as a whole. You start to develop the program, and it kind of starts there. And I think since I believe we've already been through the post-apocalyptic event in Bacula's universe, so that really does give us a way to like have him direct, the efforts and put emphasis on the mission that we've been hearing about since the original series. And to me, that's super exciting. I think that, we'll get to see another generation of starships, perhaps, different outfits, crew outfits, which I think I've always enjoyed the evolution of the outfits, right? And, even on TNG, we finally got rid of the uniforms where you had to constantly do the Picard maneuver throughout the show. But I've always enjoyed the little intricacies there. And I think this gives us a chance to expand that even more. But do it within the given framework, and you already have an established character. I don't know how you could go wrong here. And like you pointed out, the going into the UFC and the fact that there's actually going to be a UFC event at the White House, and they spent $7.7 billion to make this happen or some such. I mean, this is a company that is hitting the ground running. So why not start running with Star Trek? And look, I was originally in agreement with Jonas. This is too small to start with. You need something that's going to make an impact. I don't think they're going to have trouble making impact, guys. I just don't.
Well, if they're not doing a straight reboot of everything, then this is different.
Yeah.
And if you've got people who are passionate about the project that have come along, that's great. That's obviously something that has the rumor is at Marvel Studios is that they hate it when people bring up the comic books. Okay, obviously the worst way to run this, and whatever they've said over there at the Kurtzman company that's been making all of the new Trek stuff, they're obviously not actual fans of Star Trek. They did bring in Jonathan Archer slightly in the Kelvin timeline movies. They had Scotty accidentally damaging Admiral Archer's prized beagle, I believe, in that one. For this,
what a cameo! What a cameo.
I know. They said he damaged some kind of transporter accident involving what is his name? Porthos, Athos, one of the three amigos, one of the three musketeers. Anyhow, if they can do this and they bring some machismo to it, and they have someone who can lead this from a perspective that is relatable, I think we don't need modern California represented in this. We need everyone represented in this. Jonathan Archer grew up in the cornfields of, I forget what state, probably Kansas. Obviously, Captain Kirk was from Iowa. Benjamin Sisko from New Orleans. Man, Benjamin Sisko, if they could bring back Benjamin.
I wish.
There is so much here that could be done to bring back Star Trek. It is something where the fan base has been waiting for a very long time to finally say meat is back on the menu here. And again, to bring it back around, I'm gonna say there were a bunch of. I was at a business expo one time while Voyager was on, and there were a bunch of firefighters who didn't care a thing about science fiction. And there was some kind of television display that they were trying to sell that they had Voyager playing on a computer, and all the firefighters were gathered around, and they don't care a thing about sci-fi. These guys, I know them well enough to know they don't care a thing about sci-fi. What did they like? Well, they like 7 of 9. They were willing to forgive whether the plots were good or bad because Jerry Ryan had it going on. Jerry Ryan obviously was newer stuff, but they kind of de-emphasized that about her character. The less said about that probably keeps us safe with YouTube here. Having a multi-demographic appeal on these shows is critical. And you don't have to pay for a bunch of CGI if you just have good-looking people on the screen and decent scripts.
I have a different perspective on this because I have not been a huge Trek fan, especially that period of time in my life. It just so happens like that's, the early 2000s is when Enterprise was on. And what excites me about this is to have Scott Bakula, who unfortunately was not involved with the relaunch of the reboot of Quantum Leap. And it failed because of that. Scott Bakula was essential to that show. Scott Bakula is, a fellow St. Louisan, grew up in the same hometown I did. And I'm just listening to you guys talk about this gets me as a non-Star Trek fan excited about watching this because it has some of those elements of where did Star Trek come from in the beginning that I haven't seen before. I liked the movies during the 80s to 90s, Wrath of Khan, Star Trek, the movie series, and I liked Picard, not the Picard series, but the original Captain
Next Generation,
Star Trek Next Generation. So my fandom has been like more casual, like not into it like I had been in Star Wars and not Marvel now, but Marvel for a little bit. But just hearing you guys talk about this now excites me, and I'm thinking that with the if they bring this back along with the UFC fights and everything else that Skydance is doing right with this Paramount merger, getting rid of Colbert, huge move forward, I believe. It makes me have a lot of faith in where Paramount is going from just an entertainment perspective. And as a casual fan, I think this is marketed correctly. Like somebody like me who has not been interested before will jump on board as long as, again, they market this, they write it for everybody in the audience and not just one small skewed demographic.
And tell me what you guys think about this, because this could go, two ways. Like, you could do what we've discussed in the past, which is you come back with some brand new giant reboot, and that's one way you could do it. Or you can start to earn back goodwill with a solid show that's disattached from the other stuff and gets that toe back in the water to say, guys, we care about it. We're going to take care of it. And we're in rumor and speculation territory. There's a lot of stuff in that article. I recommend people go read it. One of the things that we're hearing is that this may be a political thriller, and that the political thriller could involve a family member of Archer being kidnapped and then having to balance whatever that is with the, running the Federation. And there's something in here. Let me go to this real quick. Let's see. And Jonas, you're not a fan of the kidnap.
No, I just, if I don't want it serialized. If that's the only way that this can happen, that's fine, I guess. But I want episodic Star Trek.
Gotcha. It says, since then, Bacula and Sussman have continued to work together on a separate non-Star Trek project, but they have also kept the conversation about Star Trek United alive. This would be the name, apparently, developing and refining it further. At one point, they decided to move the setting from Earth to the planet Babel, a center of interplanetary diplomacy first introduced in the original series, to further distinguish it from Starfleet Academy. The show's concept continued to feel rich, resonant, and worth exploring, says Sussman. And with Skydance now officially in charge of Paramount, Sussman says he and Bacula think it could be time to bring Star Trek United pitch back into the mix. So there you go. That's where we are right now, folks. And I'm, like I said, now, I can't prove it. I can just tell you we've got a source out there that's telling us that this might be farther along with Skydance and Paramount interested than the article gives clearly credence to. Kevin?
Yeah, I just want to say, I know the concern is that this isn't a big enough strike for them, but I don't think it's about size. I think it's about telling the general audience, hey, we will listen to you, and if we can bring back the Trekkers who have been very vocal about being displeased, it creates an air of hope to want to give everybody a shot. This is about goodwill. This isn't about impact, and going this way about it again. It gives them the ability to go home again, but set a brand new table and just get the stink out of the air. I really, really, really hope they get this right, because frankly, this is the last chance. It's going to have to be a hard reboot, and no one wants that. People want to see the story continue. This is a rich, lush universe with fantastic characters. I say it all the time. Even the movies that people don't like Final Frontier and Insurrection, even the bad movies give you some of the absolute best character moments that you can get out of Star Trek, and people don't want to see that happen. That is the equivalent of throwing out the bathwater with throwing the baby out the bathwater.
You redeemed yourself on the Insurrection comment there at the end. Okay, I like Insurrection, but mostly because it's basically a long form episode of.
I love that's one of my favorites. I love Insurrection.
You guys are crushing Vash's hopes and dreams, though. He was hoping for a show called Vulcan Crew that was going to be about a bunch of kids from a planet locked away, a bunch of Vulcan kids who they're completely literal, and they have no idea how to handle the new world that they're placed in. I think it could be a real win with little blue elephant and all that.
Please, everyone, cancel Kurtzman Trek before they give Spock Vulcan diabetes or something.
He already has space dyslexia.
Yeah, one last thing I think that was worth noting. They don't have to go big. I think I'm going to jump on Kevin's point here because Kevin Apollo's brilliant, and just say this. They already have one of the best writers on the planet. The guy can write 27 shows at a time. So just invest in a couple more of his shows, and I think you're already on the right track as far as making a bigger splash. I just don't think they have to. I think the UFC thing is working out well. I think that all of the other solid shows that they have in various forms on Paramount Minus is fine. And this is going to be the crown jewel of a public offering, I think. And I think that that's kind of what they need to build around. This will be it, along with actual certified, informational based news that has facts and not opinions. I think if they do that, they'll destroy everybody else.
Bash, I I'm sorry, it doesn't sound like you're going to get your Kurtzman Vulcan Babies show.
Vulcan babies.
Well, there is no skeleton crew in our future, thank goodness.
Oof.
Thank goodness. Folks, it's time to bid you adieu, but we hope that you will help us anew, and that is, we're only asking you click that like button. Share, subscribe, click it, stick it to those algorithms. It is the notification bell, and drop a comment down below. And oh, by the way, have you gone the way of thatparkplace.com? www.thatparkplace.com. It's the website that if you're not yet bookmarked to, well, you should be. A bastion of truth and knowledge when it comes to entertainment and everything that's going on. Go check it out today, folks. We would love to have you over there as well. All right, we are getting ready to head out, but do not fret, for we will put out 4 more videos tomorrow, so long as the good Lord allows. And we believe that probably, just might, happen. All right, until the next time we get to share time with you, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.
Jump into the water.
Why listen to music made by people and companies who really don't like you? Check out Vacation Radio today and prepare for all new content made by the people behind the WDW Pro channel. It's the place you need for all the music. That should be fun.
Want it all, so I give them cannonball. Yeah!
Hundreds of songs, every genre you can imagine. Listen live on YouTube and enjoy a set list that's always sunny. It's Vacation Radio.
Arizona. Arizona. Pineapple pizza, Hawaiian ice freeze, yeah. Can't wait to be up. 3 days of you and me.
What are you waiting for? Every WDW Pro video has a link to Vacation Radio in the video description. Try it out and subscribe today.